Over the long term, it's up 44% a year, every year.
Billionaire Michael Saylor on CNBC Today calmly explains why one Bitcoin will eventually hit $13 million per coin by his thesis.
You know, Bitcoin's 0.1% of the capital in the world right now. I think it's going to go to 7% of the capital.
7%.
My long-term forecast is it's going to go to 13 million over 21 years.
And then gives his more short-term prediction of what one Bitcoin will be worth in about 5 years by 2030.
13 million.
13 million, but what is it 5 years?
Watch today's whole video. And it is interesting because after 8 consecutive days of outflows from the Bitcoin ETFs.
Right now, I think I just saw a headline that $1.2 billion in outflows took place out of the Bitcoin ETF. And I'm curious sort of what you think is going on with the impact of the ETF on the price of Bitcoin.
What explains this?
I think generally it's been a good thing and it's created more demand. But you got to keep in mind that Bitcoin is smart, fast, strong money. So on a Saturday night, if you're worried about a missile strike, you can't teleport your $10 million apartment to Singapore, lever it up 10 to 1, and short $100 million worth of New York real estate. But you can short $100 million worth of Bitcoin by borrowing $10 million. So you have a lot of fast money traders, a lot of volatility, and that will cause and ripple into volatility in the ETFs.
Can you explain
That's okay.
So it's pretty obvious that Bitcoin is one of the most liquid, one of the most globally traded assets on Earth.
Can you explain this, though? You know, one of the things you just talked about, if there was a missile strike or something, there was a sense that people talked about this as digital gold. And maybe you still think that's the case, but it often doesn't act like digital gold in the midst of a missile strike.
I loved this perspective from Michael Saylor.
Yeah, it's the most liquid, fungible, free capital market in the world. Your New York apartment's not fungible. It's not liquid. I can't panic sell it. So when there's a short-term panic, Bitcoin is trading really, really hard.
Isn't it supposed to be the opposite?
Over the long term, it's up 44% a year, every year, and you either get 12% from the S&P with VIX vol, or you take 3x the vol to get 44%. So over the long term, if you're an investor, it's going to be great because it's strong capital. Over the near term, if you're a trader, you get lots of arbitrage opportunities.
So you have to understand that this crypto crash, with Bitcoin dipping around 32% in total, of course, now the recovery has started, potentially. This Bitcoin crash was planned.
Is it a non-correlated asset people can count on, or is it just a risk-on?
You know, in the near term, whoever's got the most money can decide whether it correlates or non-correlates. It's like, again, I can lever it up 20 to 1 on Saturday night, and I can trade it long or short.
And Bitcoin will keep crashing all the way up. Volatility is a feature, not a bug.
You know, it's been growing 44% a year with about a 40 to 50 vol. I would think it'll move on at 40%, then click down to 35, then 30, then 25, and at some point it'll be the S&P return plus 8%, and it'll be the S&P vol plus 8% because it's always going to be a more global, open, free capital market.
Now let's talk about altcoin news, like Polymarket, like Ondo, like Propy. But as Michael Saylor gives his updated 2030 prediction,
13 million.
13 million, but what is it 5 years?
Just understand that one of the catalysts that takes us there is big bank custody, which we're still waiting on.
After Gensler entered office, you heard Jerome Powell, Christina Lagarde, Gary Gensler all say Bitcoin is a speculative digital asset. And that was actually a move forward. With the approval of the ETFs, it was a second move forward. I think clearly we're all waiting for big banks, bulge bracket banks, to start to custody and hold Bitcoin. That'll be the third big shoe to drop.
And this Web3 revolution is clearly just the natural next step in digital finance.
There's a tension between the 21st century and the 20th century. In the 20th century, company comes public. It cost $100 million in 4 years to go public. I know, I did it in '98. In the 21st century, I can create a public crypto token in 4 hours for $100. So you have 100 million companies that want to be publicly trading an asset 1 million times cheaper, faster. That's the crypto economy. The traditional economy is you take 4 years, you spend $20 million a year on compliance. And I think that the two sides are talking past each other. But clearly, the future is faster, smarter, stronger.
And altcoins like Ondo are already differentiating themselves and working with traditional finance.
Nate, your background is amazing, having spent a lot of time in traditional finance on the digital asset side.
Watch the founder and CEO explain how Ondo leverages its expertise to help traditional asset managers like BlackRock with distribution.
You know, they really see the value from us in helping with distribution. You know, they're a little bit limited in how they can tap into DeFi protocols and wallets and exchanges and how they can expand to a whole bunch of different public blockchains at once. And those are areas that I think more crypto native firms can add a lot of value.
And this does play into Ondo's bigger strategy of tokenizing the world.
The strategy for Ondo is to bring more assets on chain with better and unique services that can disrupt traditional finance and with infrastructure that is institutional grade and can meet the needs of asset managers and broader institutions. What we're doing with Ondo Global Markets really is trying to fill that need of taking traditional assets, putting them on chain so that all of a sudden they can become programmable, they can move 24/7, and they can interplay with a broad range of services that have been developed.
RWA altcoin Propy also making strides. As a reminder, Propy is the RWA leader in real estate, US licensed escrow on smart contracts. The news today is they're becoming one of the dominant players on one of Ethereum's dominant scaling chains. As Coinbase's base rapidly rises to become the largest and fastest growing layer 2 by monthly users in history, we are excited to continue building on this transformative L2. So we see the base ecosystem outperforming Immutable, Optimism, Arbitrum, and ZK Sync era. Also, we're seeing CNN feature crypto in the mainstream.
Polymarket is one online prediction market where people can use cryptocurrency to place bets on sports, politics, and more. Ahead of Tuesday's showdown, 28% of people think the two candidates will shake hands. 70% think Trump will speak more than Harris, and 61% think Harris will gain more in the polls after the debate ends. And as for what the candidates will say, abortion and Project 2025 are among the top words or phrases people are betting Harris will bring up.
Crypto continues to go mainstream.
What is it, 5 years?
Now let's talk about Michael Saylor's Bitcoin prediction by 2030. Also, we have just ticked over to 1.49 million subscribers. We were at 1.48 a few days ago. Click subscribe if you want to stay updated with one video a day, keeping you informed about crypto. Our goal is to hit 1.5 million before the end of the year. But how does Michael Saylor see the Bitcoin price playing out over the next 5 years?
What is it 5 years from now? You're in your 4-year calculus.
You know, it's been growing 44% a year with about a 40 to 50 vol. I would think it'll move on at 40%, then click down to 35, then 30, then 25, and at some point it'll be the S&P return plus 8%.
Well, if this year we're up about 40% in price, and let's just assume Bitcoin finishes this year around this price, so a 40% year-to-year increase, I personally think for 2025, next year, we're going to get an over 40% increase because that's that 4-year cycle bull year. And then maybe the year after that, we get negative, right? This is not subsequent 40, 35, 30. This is average. But let's just say we have another 40% increase at the end of next year. That's 79.8 thousand. Now times 35% for the following year. That puts us at $107,000 Bitcoin after 2 years, the end of 2026. $140,000 at the end of 2028. $182,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2029. And then in 5 years, at the end of 2030, that puts us at $218,000 per coin. That's Michael Saylor's conservative prediction. Also, those coming to Singapore for Token 2049, if you're looking for one of the best parties. We are media partners with this party, so we'll be there, we'll be chilling. Link down below to register and register early. And like always, see you tomorrow.